Welcome to the first chapter of the team leadership section. Many teams are put together quickly due to the need to meet an objective and benefits of putting resources behind a project. Teams, however, can be defined by their focus on productivity and the people. Both the performance and the people are key components of a team. Country club leaders are focused primarily on the people, a cohesive atmosphere, and the perception that things are going well. Leaders focused on production are primarily interested in efficiency and strict compliance. Team leaders have a balanced focus on performance and the people. The premise of this section and the book is that leadership, the organization and the team can be defined by their areas of focus and altered for a best fit by aligning their organizational goals with activities. In this section we will review Jim Jones' organization, the People's Temple, and address the products of team leadership. We will ask you to evaluate the organization and the leader, specifically addressing their performance and cohesion orientation. Murder, Mayhem, and the products of effective team leadership starts off by addressing the importance of a leader's moral and legal judgment in the identification of common goals. We will examine those states by exploring good and evil leaders. Finally, we use a study of the People's Temple to show how individuals within a team can be led to alter their values by unethical leadership. Leadership is often described as the ability to influence others.
What good is it to hold a position of authority when you cannot cause your team members to change their attitudes to further your common goals?
Yet, at the same time, this view leaves out the important element of moral and legal judgment. Ask a room full of 20 educated professionals to name a leader and most, if not all, of them will come up with names that bring to mind the highest standards of personal qualities. Each of these leaders made the world a better place for everyone.
But almost all of them were considered lawbreakers. In their time, the British had considered Washington to be a treasonous rebel. Mandela did hard time for trying to end apartheid in South Africa.
But can one be a good team leader while exemplifying the human race's worst tendencies?
The tired, if accurate, example of Adolf Hitler comes to mind as the most extreme way to illustrate this point. Hitler was responsible for millions of deaths, both military and civilian, the permanent alteration of Europe's political landscape, and the development of the first atomic bomb.
None of these dubious accomplishments would have been possible without Hitler's ability to charm, first, the beer hall crowds in Munich, followed by the German public at large.
That takes leadership used for evil, but leadership nonetheless.
James Thurman Jones gave so much to his country as a World War I veteran.
He must have had no idea that he would be remembered not only for his service, but fathering one of the most notorious cult leaders in history. To be sure, Jones was not a monster, as such leaders rarely are. At first. In fact, he shared some of the traits that make dog-talking a trailblazer.
After Indianapolis, Mayor Charles Boswell appointed him to direct the city's Human Rights Commission. In 1960, Jones became an even more outspoken advocate of integration and equality.
Were it not for his unseemly end, he may have been remembered for his enlightened views on race relations, instead of fathering today's meaning of the phrase, drinking the Kool-Aid.
To understand why it was so important that Jones gained the allegiance of his temple members, one must recall that the larger goal of the People's Temple was to exhibit and spread utopian socialism.
In this sense, the temple members would act as a team rather than simply a group. When Jones' structure was eventually realized, his temple would exhibit all of the characteristics of an independent entity working for a common goal.
Should the members of the People's Temple have been surprised?
Overnight, members of the Jones Temple began sneaking away in the night.
Ultimately, more than 900 independent, free-thinking human beings had made a conscious choice to end their own lives.
It's natural to ask whether Jones was a good team leader. Did he lead his team to higher performance?
Indisputably, he led his team to bridge the gap between where it stood in 1954 and where he wanted it to be in the end.
Having set his goal for the team, he exercised his prerogative as its leader. In that sense, Jones was a good team leader.
But, by that standard, so was Hitler, so was Manson, so was Applewhite.
Their tangible accomplishments would not look any better on a resume than Jones. So do any of these leaders have the right to be called good team leaders?
Too often, leadership is described clinically, in terms of the manner in which it is exercised, ignoring the tangible effects of its application.
Separating Jim Jones from Rosa Parks, Hitler from Washington, or Manson from Mandela serves more than an academic purpose.
Take a moment to consider Jim Jones, People's Temple. In what areas are they disciplined, cohesive, or high-performance oriented? Discipline is training that corrects, molds, or perfects the mental faculties, or moral character. Discipline can be used to gain control by forcing obedience.
Are the goals and roles formally identified? Are performance measures clear? Is participation mandatory? Is all information for decision-making available?
Cohesion is the act of sticking together tightly. In very cohesive teams, peer pressure can be used to influence members' actions.
Is history important to the team? Are there constant reminders? Does the team celebrate success? Does the team work well together? Do individuals make sound decisions which benefit the team? Is comfort with membership important to the team?
High performance, for the purposes of this session, embodies the attributes of the team leader. High performance is the execution of actions of high moral character, in a manner that achieves results.
Are goals developed together? Are tools encouraging diverse participation available? Was participation inspired? Is performance tied to goals? Is there regular, open dialogue? Are all members accepting of feedback? Are individual interests of all members supported? Are members empowered to act? Did the results improve subsequent generations?
We have introduced Jim Jones' organization, and asked you to assess the People's Temple, based on an evaluation of their discipline, cohesion, and high performance.
High levels of discipline, cohesion and performance are not necessary or beneficial for all teams.
Discipline works well in environments when timeliness is an issue, safety may be compromised, or when an agency is accustomed to, and expects a particular outcome.
Cohesion works well in organizations that are interested in recruiting, promoting a positive image, or retaining members.
Teams focused on high performance are most beneficial when there is time to plan. Safety is not an immediate concern. Members are experienced, diverse, and open-minded.
Teams will have a different balance of these traits, depending on their vision, mission, and goals.
Thanks for watching Murder, Mayhem, and the Products of Effective Team Leadership.
This is part 2 of the series, Leading Well-Disciplined Teams to High Performance.
Look for the next part of the series, Developing Shared Goals.